This is our Wednesday night channeling, and this is number 204. But let's have a quiet time before we start. Let's close our eyes, relax our bodies, center our thoughts. Bring your thought to this moment and this place. Think of this circle as a circle of light. Your imagination of the magic genie within you is the creative force. And whatever you think, believing, is manifested. So as we think of this circle of light getting brighter and brighter, filling this room, reaching upward in frequency to the higher vibrations, making contact with those beautiful beings of light. And we are reaching up in our thoughts by centering ourselves and bringing our full attention and holding it in this place, in this time. Think of this room filled with divine love, and let us send love to all those who may be visiting us from other dimensions, sitting in on our class. Thank you, Father. Would you take care of that?
That's what I'm doing.
Our class tonight is on giving. And the writing part, some of the channeling comes through writing. Give me to prime my pump, you might say, give it a boost. To give is to receive. Both giving and receiving are the same. One cannot exist without the other. To receive, giving is expressed. To give, receiving is expressed. You give to life, and life gives back to you, multiplied. To receive, you give. Just as you receive a breath of air, you have to give out the one you have. To receive the abundance of life, you give thoughts, feelings, moods, and attitudes of abundance into the ethers with feeling, emotion, and conviction. This sets into motion the law of abundance. On this physical plane, you have the belief to receive supply and abundance. You physically give your talents and labor, and you receive the symbol of abundance, money, or the equivalent. When you learn to give freely without thought of return, life gives freely to you. You may have heard that it is more blessed to give than to receive. It is blessed to give and receive, for in truth it is life that is giving to life, and it is life that is receiving.
And about the awareness to put down.
Good evening, my dear ones. This is Don, your doorkeeper, coming to you this evening from these realms of love and light. I think I sometimes sound like a radio announcer, but we are here in great abundance this evening to give to you our love, our light, and our understanding that has been given to us by the Father. There are many others here this evening who are sitting in this class as you are to learn and to grow through the learning. The class tonight is to be given by Aloha.
That's good. How about you, Mother?
God bless you, my dear ones. It is indeed a wonderful pleasure and a beautiful sight to see you this evening as your lights become brighter. When you sit in this circle, you give of yourself, you give your vibrations to this circle of light. And as you give of yourself, by being here, making the trip to come here, and giving your vibrations to this circle of light, you are receiving the understanding that is given to us, and we pass it on to you. In this subject tonight of giving, it is such an important one, for very few on your plane do understand the law of abundance and the law of giving and receiving. And the law of abundance cannot be brought about without understanding the law of giving and receiving. The giving and receiving is one and the same, for you cannot give something without someone receiving it. And when someone gives you something, always receive it with gratitude, whether you think it is something of value or not, for they are giving it to you in love and freely. And as they give it to you and you do not receive it gracefully, then their giving is not blessed in their thoughts. You see, many times when Christmas, for example, comes along, and many of you have gone beyond giving presents as the custom of your land, by understanding that giving a smile, giving a hug, giving of yourself is so much more than giving a thing. But as you give anything, whether it be a Christmas present, a birthday present, or you're giving service of yourself or whatever, give it freely and openly. Give it without any thought of return. When you do this, you set into motion the law that brings back to you the abundance multiplied many times. You cannot do this with that motive, however. You must give it just freely, as the flowers that bloom give their fragrance into the ethers. They do not expect to receive, they just give. And as the fruit tree gives its fruit, it does not discriminate who it shall give it to. It gives, because to withhold giving is to perish.
All of nature,
All of nature gives, and gives abundantly, unless it is tampered with by man. Nature, in the beginning, which there was no beginning, but in your thinking of the Garden of Eden, there was no need for labor or earning a living or things of this nature until you took on the concept of duality. And when you took on this concept of duality, of time and space, and good and evil, then you dropped yourself in consciousness to another level where the giving and the receiving was different. And as you dropped down to where you are now, on your dimension, very few people give openly and freely, but there are some who do, and you are blessed whether you know it consciously or not. The receiving part is that life is constantly giving you life force. The Father God is constantly projecting to you life, or you would not exist. Just as the electricity comes into this house, you would not have the light or the heat without the constant giving. And it is the same with your existence. You receive life from the source, the one source that gives to all of life. As you learn to give freely, as you learn to be open to receive freely, then you are in the flow of the law of abundance. In this discourse tonight, your motive is involved. Your motive for giving and your motive for receiving. If your motive is tainted with selfishness or self-centeredness or for some other reason than just freely giving or freely receiving, then the gift or the giving is not as wholesome as it could be. In your hearts, you know when this is happening. There is much to speak about this subject. There is much to learn. For as you give a breath out, you have to give that breath out to receive another. This is the rhythm of life. And the rhythm of life is in the ethers and the current of life that you do not behold with your five senses, but it is constantly flowing throughout the universe. It is a constant giving and receiving. It is a constant charging and recharging, you might say, with your thoughts and language of life is abundant because the Father has set into motion the abundance of giving and receiving. As he gives out life, it flows back to him multiplied many times, and he gives this out multiplied many times again. And this is why the universe is constantly expanding, because the law of giving and receiving and the law of abundance are tied together. And the Father's love is so great that the universe cannot contain it, and it has to expand, and is continually expanding. Your planet and the evolution of your planet is expanding. Throughout the history of your planet, man has interfered with this rhythm quite often, not in your sense of time, but you build up civilization after civilization and get to a place where you are in harmony with life, and then someone slips or something slips, and you go back because your foundation was not strong enough in the understanding of the true reality of life. Throughout, let us take just your planet. Throughout the entities that are involved with your planet, 20 some odd billion, there are many, 4 to 5 times as many in between incarnations as there are in the physical most of the time. And all of these are involved with your planet, whether they are discarnate or incarnate. And as the whole, the masses of you, as one, in a sense, are giving and receiving to life, giving and receiving to each other, you give freely or you give taintedly, shall I say. When your motive is not freely giving or receiving, when it is selfish, then do you take away from life that is around you and is in your consciousness. And when this comes in masses of entities that are involved with your planet, for example, then the whole is affected. Each individual who is selfishly cornering the market, as you call it, to make millions and billions of dollars when they do not need that many. It is a form of fear that's called greed. And as they receive this through working the law of abundance in their selfish way, they are putting these vibrations into the ethers. And so many are affected by this who do not know how to work this law of abundance. You have seen some of this in your recent news, but this has happened down through the ages and many of your civilizations. Your planet is much older than you know, and you have had many civilizations that have been built up very high and then have been wiped out completely with all the records. So you do not know of these except in your memory banks and your soul memory. They are all there in your soul memory. And as you learn to tap into these memory banks, you can tap into this. Most on this planet are not ready to do this. They are not ready to see the real truth and do not want to see it. They are struggling with life because they do not understand the law of giving and receiving freely. They are fearful, so they hoard things to themselves, or they are living in poverty because of their misunderstanding of the law of abundance. I feel that you can see that giving and receiving is involved with the law of abundance, because it is in giving to life that you receive more of life. When you, for a simple example, the story of the talents in the Bible, the master left and had 3 servants and gave one servant 10 talents and one 5 and another 1. And when he came back, he asked the one who had given 10 talents, and he said, yes, I invested it, now I have 20. So he gave him more to work with. The one with 5, he said, yes, I invested it, and now I have 10, so he gave him more. The one he gave 1 said, I was afraid and I hid it, so it was taken away from him. Now this is symbolic in the truth of life. When we allow fear to interfere, fear enters in to our thinking patterns about supply and abundance, then it is taken from us, or we have to struggle and struggle when it truly is not necessary to struggle for your existence. Everyone is different, and everyone has a particular niche in life, and no one else can fit that niche. There is no such thing as competition. This is another word for fear. Each individual has their place and their thing to do, and when you love what you're doing, then you can know that you're in your right place. And if you do not like or love what you do, then you should search for the place and do what you love and what feels correct to you in the giving to life, and life will give back to you abundantly. Some think that it is necessary to keep up with the Joneses, to keep up with all the new things that come on your market, and have everything that everyone else has. This is all right, because life is abundant. But when you sacrifice yourself by eliminating the time that you should be giving to feeding your soul, to making more money, to have more things that are rotting and decaying even when you buy them, then you are going against the grain of life and against yourself. The law of giving is also giving to yourself, giving your body nourishment so that it will be healthy, giving your mind exercise, giving your soul food of the Spirit. Most on your planet do not feed the soul, and they miss the greatest part of giving, because as you have been taught in your classes, everything comes from above down or from within out. This is the flow of life. Nothing can happen on your physical plane unless it has already happened on the higher dimensions. And so when you do not feed your soul, when you do not have contact with the inner God within you, then you have cut off, not truly, but in your thoughts and in your daily living, that contact, that conscious contact, and the flow does not come through as easily. There are those who never think of the word God, but they do have the flow of life, and they do not go to church, or they do not think of these things, but they live the life and the laws of life, and life gives to them. There are those who cheat in their receiving, and life takes away from them. It may not be in this incarnation, but they will have to reach this at some other time. At this particular time in your history of your planet is a time of enlightenment, and as you have seen on your news, many are being caught in cheating and receiving bribes and so on. And in the past, not too far in your past, this was still happening, but it did not come out into the open. But now the light is getting brighter in this new age, and everything is speeding up. The acceleration is speeding up very rapidly, and everything is coming out into the open. And it is difficult to hide anything anymore. And there will come a time in your future when you will give up this thought of having secrets. You will no longer need to hide anything, for you will do away with speaking and communicate through thought transference, and all will be known. There is truly nothing to hide. Everyone is doing the best they can at the moment with their past conditioning. And when you eliminate the fear of death, and all fears are traceable to this fear of death or fear of lack, then do you eliminate the need to hide anything. When you realize that your body has certain needs, and these needs is natural to be fulfilled. Your mind has certain needs to be fulfilled. But when you are fearful and not sure which is right or which is wrong, then do you hide, and this creates guilt in your consciousness, and this guilt will have to be dealt with at some time. When we go back to the statement that there is no duality, there is no right or wrong, life is, period. This is just a schoolroom. You have come to learn and to have experiences, all kinds of experiences, because you do not know anything until you experience it. And whatever your experiences are, realize that they are necessary for you at the moment. Try not to condemn yourself, but as soon as you realize that you are going against the grain of life, and as soon as you can, do not force yourself into a corner that you cannot accommodate, but as soon as you can, with understanding the truth, eliminate going against the grain of life, and you eliminate the distress, the tension, and the karma that you're building up. This is all involved with giving and receiving, and the law of abundance, and the fear of lack. You see, lack of life you call death. There is no death. Life is eternal. And as you understand this, truly understand it, and know it within the depths of your being, and consciously know it, then you can eliminate your fears. You can eliminate the struggle in your life when you realize that the Father dwells within you and is guiding you every step of the way when you will let Him. He has given you free will, and He cannot break this law of the free will. And when you stubbornly go on your way in the wrong direction, he has to let you go and to learn that lesson, for you will not know that that is the wrong way until the pain becomes so great that you realize that you do not want this kind of thing anymore. And so you turn around and try another way. But as you learn to listen to that still small voice that is within you, and take the time out each day to go within and visit with your Heavenly Father, it does not need to be in words. It does not need to be anything but just a calm stillness. Those vibrations come out to your conscious physical life, and they come out with knowing and understanding as you go through your day. And you do not need, it is almost impossible to explain how this happens in your language, for your language has no words for it, but it does happen. And when you can take the presence of the Father through your day, reminding yourself of his presence within you, this makes it even easier for you to give to life freely and to be relaxed, to be at peace, to smell the roses along the way, to enjoy life, to take joy in whatever you do.
Man, Allison Kate.
This class has many other avenues that we could go into, but let us stop at this time and give you an opportunity to ask questions. For those who are new, we do not accept personal questions about your personal life unless they are connected with the class or a spiritual understanding. But feel free to ask questions that you need answers for. Are there questions this evening?
I have a question. At dinner today, we were saying our grace, and a thought came to me about how at one of Don's classes, he talked about how whenever you pray, you should see a light coming down, and how you should visualize it to enhance the prayer. And then I had this example of getting in a car and not going anywhere, and that was how so much of our praying is. We just get in the car, we just sit there, it doesn't take us anywhere. But I was wondering if there was anything more to that, or if you could shed some more light on that.
Yes, this is what you call praying amiss, when you get in a car and don't go anywhere. Gratitude is one of the greatest forms of prayer, and especially when you sit down to a meal, usually, if nothing else is said, thank you for this food, and some people do it by rote. Other people do it with feeling and with emotion and knowing that it comes directly from the source, and they give gratitude to this. Yes, in our life, so much of the time, we go through certain things thinking that, trying to fool ourselves, should I say, into thinking that, well, I'll do it again this time, or I'll correct it next time. This is getting in your car and going nowhere. And when you understand the law of life, it takes time for it to get into your subconscious and for you to be able to consciously direct your life as you understand intellectually the laws of life. Be not concerned when you think you have done something against the grain of life, but immediately send God's love into this thought or action and release it. And when you release something, it is like giving it to the Father. The Father knows what to do with it. And when you truly give it to the Father, then you think no more about it. The Father never condemns you for any inconsistencies with the laws of life. He only loves you. He has given you the freedom to leave his house, his consciousness, and drop down into these lower dimensions to have all the experiences that you need. And he has freely given you this, not with conditions that if you don't do this right, you're going to hell and burn forever. This is the biggest mistake that mankind has made, and it is done through fear and through controlling others. When you pray, assume the role as if it has already happened. Your master teacher said, pray believing that you have already received and you shall receive. This is going a little far from your question, and would you like to comment some more on what you need to understand about this?
Only about what you said is sometimes it's a pretty fine line, because earlier you mentioned how we should never expect anything for giving. So if we're giving thanks or praying for something because we're, I guess in that case should be looking for something, but let's say we're just giving gratitude for a meal, then I guess that would be different.
Let us remember that everyone is doing the best they can at the moment with their past conditioning and the understanding that they have. Intellectually, they may know better, but they cannot do better until they know it. Let's see, we got our words mixed up there. Intellectually, they may understand, but until you experience something and have the realization or the enlightenment, then you do not know it. It is still then your free will to follow through and go the direction that you have been given. But everyone is in their right place. Everyone is doing the best they can, and this is why the Master said, judge not, lest ye be judged. And this is such a revelation when you realize that when you are judging someone else, you are truly judging yourself. Because if you see something in someone you do not like, that it bothers you and disturbs you, you can be certain that you have this same thing within yourself, whether you are conscious of it or not. Does this help your understanding, my dear?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. In giving the lesson tonight, I try to give you the understanding of the law of giving and receiving, the law of abundance. You may catch a little here and a little there. Your teachers and your guides are with you and sending love into your auras and your consciousness to help you to understand. But it is still your prerogative to accept what is said or even to understand it. So be not concerned. Take whatever you can receive with understanding and let the other go by the board. There will come another time when it will be brought to your attention. For life is eternal, my dear ones. We need not rush around and strain and struggle, even with our soul's growth. This may be a revelation to some of you. Are there other questions, comments that you would make? Feel free if you have questions.
There was something that you said.
Speak louder, please.
Excuse me, there was something that you said that I didn't quite understand. That our world existed longer than we knew.
You're going to have to speak louder to get it on the tape.
There was something that you said earlier about our world existed longer than we knew, that there was no beginning, that there was something about in and out. If I didn't understand the two words.
This planet did have a beginning, but it has been here much longer than mankind thinks it has. Your scientist thinks that it has. Some of them know that it has. But the point that I wanted to put across to you that is that you have existed, not all of you existed on this planet all of the time, but most of you have come to this planet and have built up many civilizations much higher than this one, much higher than Atlantis or others that you may have heard of, and have wiped them out by gaining too much, shall we say, psychic power without the spiritual understanding. And through the lack of understanding the law of giving and receiving, the law of abundance, they have, a few may have become greedy and used this power in a destructive way and wiped out the whole civilization. You may have heard of Atlantis when it was has gone under the sea and the landmass has changed. This happened at that time. It is hoped that in this new age that you will not make this mistake again, but is still in the hands of the whole. Now there are many plans on this side of the veil that we're choosing the ones to incarnate and to get in the places of governing, so to speak. We're not taking away free will for who you vote for or whatever, but we're placing these entities so that they can get in the position knowing the truth of life, more of the truth of life than most, and helping to bring about heaven on earth. This can come about in the next 2,000 years, the golden age that you have just entered. Is this the question that you ask?
Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you for being here. Everyone is welcome here with open arms and with love. We are all one in life, and we must realize this. There is no one who is left out of the family of life. On your plane, there is so much fear that causes greed, and we try to divide ourselves and separate ourselves. But everyone is one with everyone else. And when we realize this, then we give freely of that which we have. And as we give freely to life without the motive of receiving, then life gives back to you freely. Are there other questions? Feel free to express whether it concerns this class or something else.
Give me that.
It's wonderful to feel the peace of God.
Yes, it is. And when you take the time, so many say, I don't have the time, but it is true what Donald says, that you did not take the time to sit down and be quiet and go within. When those who have small children, it seems almost impossible to do this, but if you are serious enough, you will make a way and find a way to do it. And as you do, you become acquainted with the inner worlds. The outer is less than 2% of life. And when you give all of your energies and your vitalities to the outer husk of life, you miss the beauty and the glory of God himself. For he dwells within, he dwells in all of life, but the outer life has been distorted so much by your learning lessons through going against the current of life, and this is not wrong, it is just a truth that it does not seem to you to be very good. And when you understand that there is no good or evil, then you stop judging it, and you realize that you live within your consciousness, in yourself. And as you build that understanding within yourself, then you're building your heaven or your hell that you live with inside of you.
All right.
It's a wonderful feeling. I know it is for me. I feel exalted because my ministry is helping others.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's every day, all day, just so many. And it's such a feeling, an exalted feeling.
Yes.
To help others and to give to others.
Yes, you receive, you see. As you give, you receive that feeling. And that feeling moves higher and higher the more that you give unconditionally. Then you receive eventually that bliss consciousness, is the words that you use, that the masters have. And you can move into this on a continuous basis. And as you do, then you become the master of yourself, and ultimately the master of your world and your universe. This is the path for all of you and for all of mankind. God has given you the freedom to take as long as you choose, and it is up to you. When you begin to understand that the inner worlds are so much more alive, so much more beautiful, so much more glorious, then it is easy for you to give what you think of as time, to set aside, to go within and get more acquainted with the higher dimensions as you think of them. And as you do, you become one with them, and eventually you are there in consciousness.
I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, first time I came to class because the word utopia kept coming to me. And I asked you, why was that coming to me? And you said, that's bliss.
Yes.
You say, that was about 3 years ago.
Yes.
You're saying it's bliss. And I said, well, why is this word just keeps coming and keeps coming? And you said, because something blissful, at some point in time, you will become blissful in consciousness. And that has happened.
Yes. And as you move further, you will receive more of it. It grows, and it grows, it continues to grow as you continue to raise your understanding or raise your consciousness to a higher level. Are there other questions this evening? Our class tonight on giving and receiving is the heartbeat of life, because the beat of life is like your heartbeat. It is beating to give life to your body, and your body is a universe within itself, in a sense. And the universe has at its heart the Father, Mother God, that is sending out his vibrations and receiving them back multiplied. And as you get into the harmony and rhythm of this beat of life, then you go with the flow that is building and expanding, and you become one with the understanding that is God. This is all, for all of you, this is in your so-called future. It is there for you now, if you could accept it. But on your plane, you have set up this belief in time and space, and you think that it takes you time to learn this, and so you are co-creator with God, and you take the time to learn it. When you reach a certain level of consciousness, then you go beyond duality, and you realize that it has always been there, and all you need to do is reach out and take it. It has been a glorious time to be with you and to share this class with you tonight, to be with you in harmony and peace, to give and to receive. You see, everyone who gives unconditionally receives multiplied more of life. Remember this, and give of yourself without conditions. God bless each one of you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Receiving these high vibrations is a lot like being pregnant, isn't it? It's just,
Don't laugh, Mary.
isn't it, Mary? It's there. It wants to express.
I don't guess she would say that unless she's having a morning sickness. But I understand what you mean.
The concept is there.
You're giving life, more life to life. Yes. You are
Something wants to be expressed.
Yes, see, pregnant can mean many things besides having making a body for an entity, the inner. And you can be pregnant with
Power.
joy and all of those things.
With God's power.
Yes, through your choice of receiving God's power. Yeah, it's always there. God's power is always there, but we have to be open to receive it. And I think Ella is still here. Sounds like.
Send Yellow our love.
That's good for your baby.
Yeah, it puts a whole different perspective on the pregnancy, that's for sure. Because I had my first baby, I came before I had my first baby, and she's just so much more aware of so many things. And in the morning, I start talking to her about her dreams, and I have these pictures of these Tibetan masters that somebody gave me that I have on my wall. She looks at them and points and talks away to them, and so we're going to keep encouraging her to bring that back with her, you know, so her imaginary friends will be real, and I think it'd be really an interesting light to the other side.
And trade.
Our tape didn't run out.
Not quite.
Not quite. Well, it stands the full hand. As we come together in the physical by holding hands, let's bring down to our physical conscious awareness the understanding and enlightenment that we have received, and use our inner image to see the light going in to our consciousness, filtering down to our conscious awareness, and giving us the understanding to use what we have received as we go through our daily life on this physical plane. Let us think of this room being filled with divine love, spreading out over the city, covering this planet, going out to the whole universe. To let us see God's love going ahead of us into this week, into our every thought, word, and deed, into every situation, into every encounter. Thank you, Father.